are back for another week of betting the NFL. I am Caleb Ochoa, also known as NFL of 22. With my man Derek Weatherly, also known as DWeezy. What's going on, man?
Not much. What's going on with you this week?
Not too much. Just ready to bet. Make some bets on the NFC West, the NFC North this time. Um, as the division we'll be focusing on, we'll be giving you the divisional winner odds. We'll give you the over under win totals for each team in this division, and we'll give you our overall thoughts on how well we think these teams will do this season. So yeah, let's get it started, man. We'll start with the division favorites, the Green Bay Packers, who have odds of minus 185 to win the division. In the offseason, they, last season they went 13-4. They finished first in the NFC North. Obviously, they made the playoffs, and but they had pretty quick exits. They only one and done. And but in the offseason, they had a lot of drama that happened with their quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. They didn't know if he was come back or not, whether he retire, whether he get traded or something else, or he come back with the team. But they lost, and with all that drama, they lost the receiver Devontae Adams, trade him to the Raiders. They lose Billy Turner, offensive lineman. They lose two more receivers, Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Quinemius St. Brown. And finally, they lose linebackers Darius Smith. They added Jerron Reed. He was a tackle. Receiver Sammy Watkins. Linebacker Chris Barnes. Then the draft, they take first-round pick Quay Walker from Georgia. First-round pick defensive tackle Devontae Wyatt from Georgia. And second-round pick receiver Christian Watson out of North Dakota State. So all said, like I said, had the drama with Rodgers. You know, trying to place some pieces on defense. Again, they focus on defense. They don't take the receiver like a lot of people might have thought they would have, but they keep doing the same old Packers deal, going with defense, not really focusing on giving Rodgers weapons and ending in results of why he keeps being frustrated with the team and whatnot. But with all that said, what do you think, man? What do you think about the Green Bay Packers in the 2022 season?
Yeah, I definitely think it's been rather shocking that over the years, like you said, they haven't been willing to bring in wide receiver talent. It's a stat that I always found just sort of incredible. If I'm not mistaken, in Aaron Rodgers' career, he's thrown a total of 2 or 3 touchdowns to a player that was a first round draft pick. That's insane. Literally insane. And the best part is they did not draft this player. Um, but yes, it was a Mercedes Lewis. He had one in his first stint with the team, and then I believe he got 1 or 2 in his second stint with the team. But it's just adding to his own record, essentially. The only first round draft pick to ever catch a touchdown from Aaron Rodgers. Um, so that's something I've always found interesting. With the number setting at 10.5, this could be an interesting number because I'm not sure. Like you said, this team lost good bit of pieces. It's hard to replace a Devontae Adams, and they sure didn't bring in any wide receiver talent to do that.
No, they didn't.
They got the wide receiver, also known as Hammy Watkins, out there, who I think will be lucky to see play. If we're talking starting, you don't see Sammy Watkins start more than 3/4 of the season.
Is Randall Cobb still there? Does Rodgers still has this guy?
I'm not sure. That guy that was so amazing and that would help.
That was his boy.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like a reverse gift of Terrell Owens. That's my wide receiver. But so yeah, this could actually be an interesting play if you're a seller on the Packers, because them being the favorite to win the division, something like, potentially looking at an under at the wins total, which is at 10.5, which is fairly high when you start to look at, that the book is kind of expecting every team to have roughly about a 6-7 win season. So there's potential that, a couple division teams could steal a win. There's not that much separation as far as win totals between them and Minnesota. Uh, I just I hadn't been big on the Packers in the past. They've been able to rack up wins and dominate their division. Um, I don't know. Me personally, I think this could be an area where you might be able to genuinely target the under on the division favorite going into
Yeah.
things.
Something crazy about that. You have them at 10.5.
Yeah, the book I was looking at, yeah, they had
Yeah, I
ten
had
and a
him
half.
a whole game difference. Mine says 11.5.
Oh
That's a
yeah, see,
yeah
yeah,
yeah
and
that's a big discrepancy there.
now
Um,
something I do notice, where I was looking, they had 10.5, but the over is juiced heavy at -150, and the under is actually +120.
oh,
So
okay.
yeah, but
Yeah,
like I said, when you start getting in that range of winning 11, 12 games, I'm not sure if they got the pieces there to do it.
here. I do think this team is going to take a step back because I just don't think they have the talent. I mean, I just don't see any weapons for Aaron Rodgers to throw to at this point. I still think they are the class of the division. I would make a heavy bet on to win the division because I just think this division is bad. I think this is a bad division. I think the rest of the teams aren't very good. So even though I'm not very high on the Packers, I will take them heavy on to win the division. Um, because I just don't see any other teams even competing with them. I don't think they're even close because I mean, no matter what you guys say, I don't think they have the talent, but I mean, they still got Aaron Rodgers and he's going to win you a lot of games. He's going to get you a winning season, but I'm just don't know how many games that is going to be. That's why I'll take the under because I think 11.5 is way too much for this team. And yeah, but I do think it'll be a step back. Yes, they will make the playoffs because obviously they'll win the division. So you should make that bet. But overall, I'm just not that high on this Green Bay Packers team.
Yes, I feel like to win the division would be more my lean to go. Uh, if we were having to say what might be the best play, taking the game totals, either an over or under, or looking at the odds to win the division. As you said, I feel that they could easily win the division. Now they may win the division at 9 games, 10 games. They may win the division at 12 games, but I feel there's a more likelihood that they'll finish on the lower end of that spectrum. So, that being said, uh, I as I said, I like the under on that play, but even if I didn't, I think them to win the division would probably be the better approach in this scenario.
All right. Yeah. So we both agree on both parts right there to hit the under and win the division. We'll move on to the second place team in the division as the Minnesota Vikings, who went 8-9 last season, just missing the playoffs. They their losses come in at head coach. They get rid of Mike Zimmer. They lose. They lost Anthony Barr from now. They might resign him. We don't know yet. Sheldon Richardson, Everson Griffin, Xavier Woods, and Tyler Conklin. They add in free agency. They add their new head coach Kevin O'Connell, Zadarius Smith, Harrison Phillips, linebacker Jordan Hicks, receiver Albert Wilson, and offensive lineman Jesse Davis. In the draft, they take first round pick defensive back Lewis Seam from Georgia, second round pick Andrew Booth from Clemson, second round pick Ed Ingram, guard out of LSU. Now, they had a pretty long stint as far as head coaches go, because head coaches go pretty fast these days. They don't stay too long in one place. But he had an 8-year stint with the Minnesota Vikings. They're moving on from him. they're going with rookie head coach Kevin O'Connell, another guy who's worked with McVay, and the kind of this whole trend of getting whoever McVay worked with, a young guy that's offensive minded. That's kind of seems like the trend that
Well,
teams
isn't
are
that what
finding.
the story typically is? One head coach wins, and all of a sudden, all the people working under him, especially the offensive minds, oh, those are the people we gotta hire. Eh,
Yeah.
it's funny. It's just you using the term trend. It made me think about it. It's like it's not a trend when that's kind of how it's been for the past
Well, I only
40,
say it's a
50
trend
years.
because not every team. I'll talk about another team who's going against that trend coming up, but uh, yeah, because it's not every team that's doing it. It's certain teams that are doing it.
Oh yes, I agree with you. I just I find it funny how often things like that people not to me that's less a trend and almost more a tradition at some point because it's more it's more a philosophical thing. It's not so much a tangible physical measurement. You know, as I said, it's a more philosophical thinking about something. In relation to their ability.
All right. Yeah. So the Vikings going into the season, it all really depends on whether this new coach can bring his system, the system that well, really not his system, it's really McVay's system, and translate that over to this team. And because he wasn't calling the plays, obviously we know McVay was calling the plays, and can he translate that with Kirk Cousins and the weapons they got, which they do have really good weapons. They got Justin Jefferson, they got Adam Thielen, they got Dalvin Cook. So they got really nice weapons. It boils down to Kirk Cousins, whether he can get it done. And we've seen that he can't. He can't win games. He can't win games consistently. We all know his really terrible record in under the bright lights in prime time. He's just not a guy that can get it done, and that's why I kind of see this season going forward is just more of the same of him not being able to produce wins. He'll put up the good stats, but he when he really needed to win games, he won't be able to do it, especially with the new rookie head coach. I think their defense goes downward. I think Mike Zimmer was a very good defensive coach. I think he was very solid in that department. I think the Vikings really always had a pretty good defense under him, and I think that will suffer now that he is gone. But what do you think, man?
Yeah, I don't think this team is necessarily built to transition well through a new coaching staff coming in. I think we could see Cousins more at the end of his time with Minnesota. Not to say necessarily they try and move on from him, but I wouldn't be shocked if within the next year or two, whether it be some sort of outright cut from the team or a trade or moving something around to make it possible to move on from Kirk Cousins. But yeah, I don't see, we got Dalvin Cook coming back, who's definitely a major producer on the offensive side. I don't see this translating to wins. You know, basically, I think there's going to be growing pains, more or less. You're going to have stretches where this team is still figuring itself out within the new system. Um, there's also major questions behind how well can this new coach and coaching staff implement that system, like you said. Something I think about, you see me in my Panthers gear. Well, everybody wanted to talk about how Joe Brady was this offensive guru. Well, Sean Payton was calling the plays when they was in New Orleans. He
Yeah.
had 1 year in LSU, and people are like, "Oh my God, he turned Joe Burrow into this amazing guy." Well, Joe Burrow did just fine in Cincinnati without him, and he did horribly in Carolina. So I do think that there will be some growing pains in that department, even if this coach ends up being successful. This first year, especially early on in the season, you may see them rack up some early losses that they may have not necessarily picked up under normal circumstances. And so yeah, looking at a flat 9 on the win total, um, I think the under would be the way to go as far as what I was looking at. I got it's -115 both ways.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really a great expression of kind of what I was saying. Like this team could have the potential to maybe be a +9 win team, but you lose 2-3 games that you shouldn't have lost, it becomes a whole lot more difficult to get to that 10 win total. So I think with it being 9, the possibility of a push, that under is the way to go there. Like I said, like you said, Kirk Cousins hasn't performed well, whether it be under bright lights or big time games. The infamous stat patter. Uh, so yeah, I just with this team, I don't think they'll necessarily, be in the bottom, of the division, but I do think they will struggle to meet that 9 game win total. So I'll have to be on the under.
All right, I totally agree with you, man. I have them at 8.5, over and under win total. Definitely take the under on that. They're second favorites to win the division at +275. Not even touch that because I just don't think any of these teams really have a chance except the Packers to really compete with the Packers. So wouldn't even throw a little money on that because I just don't think it's going to happen at all.
Yeah, and I agree with you there because as I was saying when I was talking about the Packers, even if the Packers have a down year, I still expect them to
Yeah.
probably, finish with at least 9 wins. Now we talking about a skinny margin between 9 and 10.5, of course, but as I was just saying, I don't think the Vikings can get 9 wins. Why am I going to think they win the division over the Packers when I think the Packers will get at least 9, even if my under doesn't come in, which means they won more than 10.5. So that's why earlier, sort of reinforcing what I was saying about the division, Packers to win the division being a more potential lean there.
All right. So not too long in the Vikings, but we'll move on to the Chicago Bears, who came in third in the division last year. They went 6-9, did not make the playoffs. They lose their head coach. They got rid of Matt Nagy, receiver Allen Robinson, lineman James Daniels, receiver Jakeem Grant, defensive end Akeem Hicks, corner Artie Burns, linebacker Danny Trevathan, and quarterback Andy Dalton. They add head coach Matt Eberflus, receiver Tajay Sharp, receiver Dante Pettis, receiver Economius St. Brown, corner Tavon Young, tight end Ryan Griffin, receiver Brian Pringle. In the draft, they take second round pick Kyler Gordon, corner from Washington. Second round pick safety Jaquan Brisker from Penn State. Third round pick Velus Jones, receiver from Tennessee. And overall, the Bears are just complete disaster to me, in my opinion. They've been like that for a while. I don't like the mentality of this team. I don't like the way they manage this team. They seem to be always nostalgic for the monsters of the midway of the 1980s, and that's what they're stuck in because they want to focus on defense all the goddamn time, and they do it again. What they do, and this is what I'm talking about. Bumping against the trend of getting a young offensive mind. That's exactly the opposite of what they get. They get Matt Eberflus, a defensive coach, because that's all they want to focus on. They always want to focus on defense. They did it again in the draft, taking their 2 top picks on defense, and that's why this team isn't a professional. Just reaching for what they were back in the old days, and that's not how you win today. You win by offense. You get weapons around your quarterback, and you win like that. That's how the rules are set up, and they keep doing this the same thing over and over and expect to win, and they ain't gonna win. That's why I'm not very high on this season, and that's what my betting will reflect that. But what do you think about the Chicago Bears, man?
I really agree with you there. I don't, it's hard to imagine that a team could have much more turnover than what you listed. I mean, I'm shocked you're still breathing after running through that list of names. So Like you said, it's dysfunction on many different levels. As I was just talking about the head coach coming in with the Vikings, the head coach coming in with the Bears, he may not be a bad coach, but if you're not set up to succeed, it can still all just crumble in your hands. Of course, in Minnesota, there's a better foundation to work with, so it's a different situation. But the philosophy is still the same. You know, good coaches that have nothing to work with can't have success, just like bad coaches cannot have success with good players. Um, you know, there's little to look at and think that you're going to see much out of this team, whether it be offensively. I know a lot of people are high on Justin Fields. I never really saw it. Not
Thank you.
speaking,
Thank you. Finally,
not
someone
spe-
that's with me.
and that's not even speaking on anything NFL related. Just even at the college level, I did not
Yes,
see the appeal.
absolutely. Finally, someone's
And
on my
so
side.
I'm still waiting to see if that comes to fruition, even though I don't feel that it will. Um, and a rather shocking thing is just to get where the book I was looking at. Bears win total 6.5. That's tied with the Detroit Lions.
Hmm.
The Lions got better odds of hitting their over than the Bears do.
Yep.
That's scary. That is downright scary that the
But
Detroit
you know what?
Lions with a Jared Goff and over there dieting on kneecaps is considered to be a better team than the Chicago Bears.
Well,
As
I
I
agree
said,
with it.
yeah, yeah,
I
no,
agree with it
yeah.
because
If I had to
yeah,
pick, I would put the Bears in the cellar of the division.
absolutely.
The over plus 100 on 6.5, the under minus 130. Um, where I was looking, the division odds have them at the longest odds at plus 1,400. Um, I think the Lions, at least roster wise, have been able to put together a better roster and situation, even though things may not be ideal there. And so, yeah, like I was saying with this Chicago team, I would I would not be shocked at all if they finish sub 6 games, and a potential place to look for better odds than maybe that minus 130. Uh, I don't have it in front of me, but exact standings finish. Them to finish fourth in the division. They got the longest odds to win the division, so it may not be much better, but you may find something closer to even money, maybe a plus number, something a little better than that minus 130. But essentially, you're saying the same thing, whether finishing last place in the division. Granted, the Lions could beat this by being the Lions, but you talk about having less than 6 or less wins in a season, there's a strong chance you'll be last in your division.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you, man. Especially on Justin Fields. I even in college, I did not think he was that good. I think it was a mistake for them to take him. Um, and honestly, he's been proving me right. In the first season, we'll see going forward. But I can see, he had a terrible offensive line. He had no weapons. Um, so I mean, he didn't have a lot to work with. But I think in this case, it's bad situation, a bad quarterback. To me, yeah, I got him at 6.5 as well. Um, for over and under, and I'll definitely take the under. I think this team is going to be one of the worst teams in the league, to be honest. Um, and with odds at plus 900 to win division, yeah, no shot there. So yeah, I think they're going to be bad. They're going to be obviously on the bottom of the division. And yeah, this team is bad. I think this is a bad football team, and they're going to show it in the win column. All right, man. So not good stuff. Not too good stuff for the Bears, but we'll move on to the usual bottom of the bottom feeder of the
Right?
division,
How strange is that?
the
Like
Detroit Lions.
like I said, it's scary when you think about it. The Detroit Lions aren't last in the division. What is going on, folks? Like, are we in the twilight zone? Somebody hit the music. Like,
Yeah. So the usual bottom feeders, the Detroit Lions, they went 3-13-1 last year, which was good enough for last in the division, as usual. Obviously, no playoffs. And they lose Jalen Reeves Maven, corner, receiver Kendall Hodge, safety Dean Marlowe, defensive tackle Joe Heath. They add receiver DJ Chark, corner Mike Hughes, linebacker Chris Board, safety Deshaun Elliott, corner Gerard Davis. In the draft, they get the second overall pick in Aiden Hutchinson from Michigan. They get first round pick receiver Jameson Williams out of Alabama. They get second round pick Josh Pascal, Eves Van from Kentucky. So yeah, usually this, like I said, usually this team has like basically no hope for in the season. But you know what? I think there's a little hope here for this season, not to like go and win a Super Bowl or anything, but I think they're going to be better this year. I really do think so. I think they have some good amount of talent that they brought in, like I said, DJ Chark, Jameson Williams, and Aiden Hutchinson. I think that's pretty good talent. I think they already had decent talent there as well, because you had St. Brown there, you had DeAndre Swift, Jared Goff. He's okay. Like he's not terrible. He's good enough to win some games, and that's
I
all
was
we're
gonna
talking
say
about here.
there's a lot of game managers out there that are good enough to not lose a game if you put the right pieces
Yeah,
around
and they were in a lot of games last year. It didn't show
them.
in the win column.
And
They
that's
were very
something I wanted to
competitive.
touch on. Yeah, yeah. There was, like you said, there was a lot of games they lost by literally one possession, late, literally, game-ending field goals multiple times, late touchdown drives, in situations where you didn't feel like they blew it. This wasn't Buffalo 13 seconds not playing any defense. This was, oh man, we really thought Detroit was going to pull that one out.
Yeah, absolutely. So the win total is at 6.5. I'm gonna take that over. I think they get to just about 7 wins. Um, because like I said, I think if a few things go their way, I think they can turn some of those losses that they had last season into wins, and I think that'd be good enough. And like I said, I do think they have enough talent to do that. I think Jared Goff is a decent enough quarterback to win those games. Um, and going heavy at defensive draft. That was basically their weakness of last season. I think their defense was really bad, and it was 29th in total defense last season. I think Aiden Hutchinson can really help that um, significantly. So I think they already had pretty good weapons already on offense. So I think they can at least win 7 games, which honestly, I think that they get them tied for second. I think they'll be tied with the Vikings around 7 games. Um, but obviously, I'm giving them no shot again to win the division, which is even with a small bet at plus 900. There's just no shot for
Yeah,
any of these teams.
I definitely agree with you there. Yeah, I'm definitely taking the over on this one because like I was saying earlier, I think the Vikings they could potentially lose a couple easy wins. That could be one of those Detroit games. Um, team like the Bears, that could be two wins that they walk away with. I don't want to say easily, but more than possible. So you start talking about a number like 7, it's not hard. You can accidentally fall into 7 wins if
Yeah,
things roll
especially
the
with
right way.
17 game schedule now. I think you could.
Exactly.
That's not that's
Yeah.
seven and
The
7 and 10 is the old 6 and 10. So that should be good enough.
yeah, the Panthers won 5 games last year, started 3-0 and only won 2 the rest of the season. And that was pretty difficult. And there were still a few games they lost on the very end. Uh, so that's another situation where a team could have easily been maybe 7-8 win. Now, granted, didn't fall that way, but yeah, looking at this Detroit team, The over 6.5 minus 130. I definitely would have to lean to the over with them. Uh, I'm not sure if the Dan Campbell experience will work out in Detroit, but he's got his players believing in him.
You know,
He's got his players
they play
fighting
hard. They're
for him.
competitive.
Exactly. And that's at minimum, that's what you want out of a coach as far as what you're getting out of your players. Now, that may not be everything needed to keep the job, but you can at least say that some progression and success is being had, even if it isn't translating directly to wins yet. And so, like I said, I think this season they could make that jump, to a 7-8 win game season. Um, yeah, I don't think they'll have a chance for a playoff finish, or wild card or anything like that. But I definitely think the over is the way to go. Over 6.5.
All right. Oh, we pretty much agreed on all these teams. I mean, I
Yeah,
agree.
that doesn't happen too often, I will
Yeah,
say.
especially last week. Last week we were on two different sides a lot on a lot of those. But on this week, we just I guess we're on the same page here.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So that wrap up our NFC North talk. But we'll add a question for you about betting. Obviously, how much money do you usually spend? How much do you usually budget when you go into a season, or even going into just a normal betting day? And how do you manage that? Like, how do you manage risk versus reward? And how do you determine how much you're going to spend on a bet?
Well, the first thing I found, well, I won't say I found, I know I heard somebody more or less speaking along these lines, and it really resonated with me. But it's real important that you find a unit that is comfortable to you. One, because it can help you gauge maybe how much you are either willing or won't to play in a day. And then, in line with, as you were saying, being able to budget that, because you do want to account for things like losses. Now, with online sports betting, where you got to set up an account and move money to that account, you sort of get in a scenario where, as long as you're not losing, you're not still putting money in that account. Now, it may end up balancing itself out, and so you may never actually end up with some serious winnings. But it's not like, man, I put $100 in this account, and a couple of weeks later I'm putting another $100 in this account, and a couple of weeks later I'm doing it again. Like, no, it's, I put $100 in that account, and 2-3 months down the line, okay, I'm at $40, or you know you was having some winning or success, and you're on the plus side good, or you hovering around just break even. uh but finding that scale that works for you, regardless of what it is, whether it's, you hear people reference $100 bet so
Mhm.
often, and I know it makes the math simple, but it's the same math even if you say a $10 bet. A $10 bet is gonna, you move in the decimal point basically. A $1 bet, a $10 bet, $100 bet. You just move in that decimal point.
Yeah,
So if you're only comfortable betting $5 per play,
like
there's
me.
absolute yeah, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Um, a person that I follow and pay attention to, and they have a strong history. I don't want to quote it off the top of my head, but they spent over a decade working in sports books. He was
Hmm.
saying how one time, a study that was done, or like the average bet within this book, and it may have been like Caesars or one of these sports books in Vegas, was $12. That was the average bet
Yeah.
per bet, $12. So $5, $10, whatever is comfortable for you. And a way I kind of view that as trying to find that number is, look at it from the aspect is, what if you lost every bet that you made? How comfortable would you be with losing that amount of money?
Yeah.
And if you and of course it definitely plays into, making sure your other responsibilities in life are handled, because this is about having fun. And like with any sort of indulgence in life, it's about control. It's about, managing yourself as much as the funds in general. And so, you know if you can make $5 a bet, and you make, 2-3 bets a day, even if you lose, it's only $15.
Yeah.
There are things that people spend more than $15 on per day. I don't even want to see some people's coffee bills. All right. Like, so yeah, I think a big part is just finding what unit works for you. And when you get there, then you start, well, start slow. In my opinion, I think is, a good way to approach it, not necessarily try and find what you think may be the best play, but try and find what you feel strongest about. And me personally, I don't like to play multiple units on a play because you get into it can get a little hinky when you start talking about playing multiple units on a favorite and those losses versus what you might get on a better number. Kind of like how I was referencing earlier with the team like the Vikings, or maybe targeting a team to finish in last place, where you're getting a little bit better odds on the actual play itself. Um, but yeah, me personally, uh, on a typical day, I might play, make 3 or 4 plays. Nothing too outrageous in my opinion. It depends on what I see, what's going on. Now, if I'm hot, I will admit that I might, extend that number out. This past NBA season with, plays I was putting in the Discord channel I have with some fellow YouTubers, lunch break hot takes. Um, During the NBA season, I was on fire with the NBA game totals. It got to a point
Mm.
where it didn't matter how many games were going. That's how many games I was playing because, I was getting 7-3 on 10 games. So yes, that was a rare instance, but at the same time, like I wasn't losing money. So at a certain point, it was like, well, if they got 12 games going on, I'm gonna play 12 games. If they got 10 games, I'm gonna play 10 games. Now, you know, and you can also approach that, from the reverse side of things. If you're losing and having a bad run, take a step back, take a break. Go sit down, go relax, because I know you ain't happy losing. Ain't nobody out here happy losing. Okay, so yes,
Some
remember,
people just like to throw their money away and just be excited that they bet it.
but they accept the fact that they lost, so they're not mad and angry about losing. Now if you're mad and angry about losing, well, look to find some it's easy to say look to find some sharper plays, but maybe
But
investigate how to.
those are the true degenerates that just like just bet.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If one angle didn't work for you, maybe try and find a different approach or a different angle. As I said, I was specifically targeting game totals in the NBA because that was something that worked for me. I wouldn't all solely play game totals, but when I got on this run, I was only playing game totals, and I saw no reason to play anything else. And when you hitting 60-70% out of what you're playing and it's maintaining, like I almost felt bad for the sports book during the NBA season because it was like, man, I'm killing y'all. Like y'all need to call me or something. But yes, I think the most important thing when you're definitely talking about how much you're betting, your potential budget, um, find that scale that works for you, because when you find that number, then you can look at things like if I lost 10 bets, how much money did I lose? If I lost 20 bets, how much money did I lose? Forget about winning, just because there's no guarantees of winning. And so I think the safest way to look at it is how much can I potentially lose? And if you can comfortably, over a course of 10, 20 bets, lose 120, 100, $200, if you're comfortable with that figure and that scale and however that works out, then, play that. But don't be afraid to play less if you feel like it. You know, in this game, we're trying to be right, because if you're not right, you're not making money, you're not winning.
Yep. And that's good stuff. Hopefully that helps out everybody watching. And I would like to thank everybody for watching and tell them where they can find you, man.
Yeah, y'all can get at me at Backyard Action Media here on YouTube, and y'all can hit me up on Twitter at DWeatherly90. As I referenced, lunch break hot takes. I got a show that I do, a segment that I do Wednesdays live. Um, you know, we're recording this on the Wednesday where Baker got traded to the Panthers, and I was highlighting how their total number moved, and I'd already had a play locked in before the number. It did move slightly. I was a bit shocked, but I had a play locked in before the number moved. The number moved slightly, moved in my favor, locked in another play. So y'all have to wait till we get around to the NFC South and some of them other teams, see what we got in store.
All right, man, go check them out. You can find me here on this channel, doing various reviews of movies, television, all that stuff. You can find my articles on betting the NFL on our website, letsgetreadynetwork.com. Please like and subscribe this video. Like this video and subscribe to our channel if you have not already. But yeah, like I said, thanks for watching, and we will be back next week, and we will be talking the NFC West, and all the futures odds for that division. Yeah, thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. See you.